In April 2017, a video surfaced online showing a young woman with her arms bandaged up to her elbows, staring intently at the camera. She looked youthful, but the crime she was accused of shocked even the most seasoned detectives. Cassandra Bjorge wrinkled her nose in disgust, extended her arm as far away from herself as possible, and poured bleach onto the bathroom floor. Preparing the house for a large-scale party was challenging. She wanted it to look presentable, minimizing the overwhelming odor. Her boyfriend, Johnny Ryder, assisted by using an automatic gun with a dispenser tube, sealing all the seams around the door frames with a white liquid resembling silicone adhesive. He meticulously sealed several interior doors, including those to the bedroom, toilet, and bathroom, ensuring that no one could enter or detect the scent of two corpses upstairs. In the small town of Lawrenceville, Georgia, a series of strange events unfolded over a week. 3 couples in 3 separate houses were attacked, with no signs of forced entry. On April 2, 2017, the first couple was found in bed with their throats slashed, their house ransacked. 6 days later, on April 8, the second couple was attacked immediately upon entering their home. Their faces were doused with bear repellent spray, and they were beaten with metal bats. The following day, a third couple was discovered bleeding profusely on their bathroom floor, hovering between life and death. All 3 pairs were somehow connected, indicating these were not random attacks. Law enforcement had to wait for medical professionals, as the third couple had just been rushed to the emergency ward. The suspects were identified as 19-year-old Johnny Ryder and 17-year-old Cassandra Bjorge, both critically injured but alive. Johnny and Cassandra's love was intense, seeming like the truest and only love to Johnny, who had just divorced 2 weeks before meeting Cassandra. He adored her, believing she was his soulmate. Officers arrived at a white suburban house in a quiet neighborhood. Though the front door was locked, they sensed something had happened inside. Forced to break a window to enter, they found the entire ground floor in disarray, cigarette butts scattered, empty tubes of sealant on the floor, dirty dishes piled high in the sink, and a heap of fried rice directly on the floor. On the second floor, some interior doors were sealed shut. When officers forced open each door, they found a man's body on the bed, evidently beaten in his sleep, and stomped on to inflict maximum injury. Blood spattered across the walls, lampshade, and ceiling fan. In the bathroom, they found an elderly woman's body on the floor, her throat slashed, and an empty bleach bottle nearby. This house belonged to Cassandra's grandparents, Wendy and Randall Bjorge, who were both 63 and had been inseparable since high school. A day after their bodies were found, Johnny Ryder sent his mother chilling messages, confessing his madness and asking for forgiveness. Shortly afterward, police found Johnny and Cassandra unconscious on the bathroom floor of a stranger's apartment. When Cassandra woke in the hospital, detectives questioned her, and she claimed she had fallen into depression, saying she wanted to end it all. As she spoke, she slipped, saying we instead of he, revealing her involvement in her grandparents' murders. She recounted how one night she and Johnny waited for her grandparents to fall asleep. While Johnny attacked her grandfather, Cassandra hit her grandmother on the head with a crowbar. In the juvenile room, detectives found her emotionless. As Cassandra recounted the crime, she showed detectives how she had swung the crowbar, her demeanor cold and detached. After the murders, Cassandra and Johnny stayed in her grandparents' house for a week, using her grandmother's bank card to order food, buy clothes, and plan a large party. They even invited friends through Snapchat, claiming her grandparents had left her $1,000. Only 2 people showed up, and when they asked about the smell, Cassandra blamed it on clogged plumbing. When the party failed, the couple went on the run, stealing her brother's car and leaving behind her grandfather's. They took refuge at an old friend's apartment. However, a police standoff ensued, and the Special Operations Unit found the teenagers inside, clutching each other on the bathroom floor in an apparent attempt at a double suicide. Many likened Cassandra and Johnny to Bonnie and Clyde rather than Romeo and Juliet. Cassandra later admitted to impersonating her grandmother to avoid suspicion. Overwhelmed by resentment, anger, and depression, she could no longer control her aggression, which led her to participate in these horrific acts. In court, they pleaded guilty to the murders of Wendy and Randall Bjorge and the assault on Melissa Ryder and her boyfriend. Both received 2 life sentences plus 21 years and will be eligible for parole after 60 years. While some argued that Cassandra was the driving force behind the crimes, Acquaintances described her as self-centered and unremorseful, while Johnny appeared infatuated, likely manipulated by Cassandra's stories of mistreatment by her grandparents. In his closing statement, Johnny apologized to the Bjorge family, while Cassandra remained silent. Close relatives expressed their devastation as Cassandra's betrayal seemed unfathomable. Wendy and Randall had taken Cassandra in to shield her from a difficult home life, and in return they were mercilessly killed by the granddaughter they loved and protected. Cassandra Bjorge's grandparents, Wendy and Randall, had fought hard to protect her. They had taken custody of Cassandra to shield her from potential abuse at the hands of her stepfather, after Cassandra had reportedly run away multiple times and was declared missing on several occasions. Despite their efforts to care for her and provide stability, Cassandra's relationship with them deteriorated over time. At the trial, it was revealed that she felt increasingly resentful of her grandparents' restrictions and disapproval of her relationship with Johnny Ryder. Cassandra's detachment during her interrogation was unsettling, as she showed no remorse or sense of responsibility for her actions. She calmly described how she and Johnny used bleach to mask the odor of decomposition in the house, sealing doors to prevent anyone from entering rooms where her grandparents' bodies lay. While discussing the murders, she remained expressionless, even smirking at times, which left detectives questioning the depth of her involvement and her level of remorse. Investigators noted that Cassandra had chosen to target her grandparents, the very people who had rescued her from a troubled household. Instead of harboring resentment toward her mother or stepfather, she directed her anger at Wendy and Randall. This choice to harm the people closest to her led many to question Cassandra's mental state and motivations, suspecting deep-seated emotional issues. Her calm demeanor throughout the interrogation reinforced suspicions that her disconnection from reality may have fueled her violent actions. During the trial, Cassandra and Johnny ultimately blamed each other for the events, though many observers believed Cassandra was the one who orchestrated the brutal plan. The prosecution portrayed her as manipulative and cold, highlighting her role in influencing Johnny to participate in the horrific crime. Johnny, who appeared more remorseful, admitted he felt he had been blinded by love and manipulated into taking part in the murders. His defense argued that Cassandra had deceived him with stories of mistreatment to justify her actions, further revealing the toxic nature of their relationship. As the case came to a close, both Cassandra and Johnny were sentenced to 2 life sentences each, plus additional years for the assault on Melissa Ryder and her boyfriend. They would each be eligible for parole only after serving 60 years in prison. This shocking case not only highlighted the vulnerabilities in Cassandra's life that led her down this dark path, but also served as a tragic reminder of the consequences of unchecked emotional and psychological turmoil. The documentary ends by urging viewers to reflect on the tragic consequences of this violent and heartbreaking case. It invites viewers to engage in the comments, discussing the case, the shocking motivations, and the devastation left behind for the Bjorge family. The case of Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder not only captivated the public with its brutality but also raised questions about the psychological factors influencing such horrific actions. Cassandra, who had a history of emotional struggles and troubled relationships, seemed to have a growing resentment toward authority figures in her life, particularly those who imposed rules or tried to restrict her. For years, Wendy and Randall Bjorge had worked tirelessly to provide her with stability and a safe environment, but despite their efforts, Cassandra's behavior grew increasingly defiant. The difficult circumstances surrounding her early years, including reported abuse and neglect, fueled feelings of betrayal and anger, ultimately channeled toward her grandparents. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Cassandra's sense of entitlement and anger towards perceived injustices were central to her actions. As her life became more intertwined with Johnny Ryder's, the 2 teenagers fed off each other's instability, developing a warped sense of love and loyalty. Their intense attachment to each other fostered a sense of us against the world, leading them to believe that anyone who opposed their relationship had to be removed. This twisted reasoning became the foundation for a violent scheme that ultimately cost the lives of 2 innocent people. As for Johnny Ryder, the court revealed that he was susceptible to manipulation, particularly given his background of substance abuse and troubled relationships. While some saw him as a willing participant in the murders, others believed he was deeply influenced by Cassandra, who capitalized on his vulnerability and devotion to her. Johnny's remorse during the trial contrasted starkly with Cassandra's stoic composure, leading to a public debate about the true instigator of these crimes. Was Johnny merely a pawn in Cassandra's plan, or was he equally culpable? The case underscored the tragic consequences of young people who, without appropriate guidance or intervention, become susceptible to violent, impulsive actions. Experts suggested that both Cassandra and Johnny displayed troubling signs that, had they been addressed sooner, might have prevented this tragedy. Cassandra's struggles with aggression and unresolved trauma were well documented, and her gradual desensitization to violence ultimately led her to commit unspeakable acts without remorse. As details of the case emerged, media coverage intensified, painting Cassandra and Johnny as a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde, a comparison that only added to the notoriety of their crimes. Many were disturbed by Cassandra's cold demeanor and her casual recounting of the events during her interrogation. The way she spoke about her grandparents' murders, as though recounting an ordinary day, demonstrated a profound lack of empathy, a characteristic often associated with deeply rooted psychological issues. The Bjorge family and the community were left grappling with the devastating aftermath. Friends and relatives of Wendy and Randall struggled to comprehend how someone they had loved and supported could commit such an atrocity. The grandparents' deaths left an indelible mark on those who knew them, especially as they had fought so hard to protect Cassandra from harm. The betrayal was more than just a crime, it was an irreparable wound to a family that had given everything to support a troubled child. In the end, Cassandra and Johnny were each sentenced to multiple life terms, ensuring that they would spend decades in prison. The case sparked conversations about the importance of mental health support, early intervention for at-risk youth, and the impact of unresolved trauma. Many believe that if Cassandra's emotional and psychological struggles had been addressed sooner, this tragedy might have been averted. The video concludes with a final reflection on the importance of recognizing warning signs in troubled individuals and providing necessary support to prevent similar tragedies. The tragic tale of Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder remains a cautionary story about the destructive power of unresolved pain, unchecked anger, and the dangerous bond that can form between individuals with shared resentments. Viewers are encouraged to leave their thoughts in the comments, reflecting on the societal factors and personal decisions that led to this heartbreaking outcome. The documentary serves as a stark reminder of the profound consequences that result from the loss of empathy and humanity, urging everyone to look out for those who may be suffering in silence. As the court proceedings drew to a close, the tragic details of the Bjorge case forced a closer examination of the societal factors that may contribute to such disturbing behavior in young people. Cassandra's childhood was marked by instability, conflicts, and a breakdown in trust with key figures in her life. Her grandparents had intervened, taking custody and working tirelessly to provide her with stability, structure, and love. Despite these efforts, Cassandra's anger toward perceived authority figures and her sense of betrayal remained potent, escalating over time. Experts and advocates within the fields of psychology and juvenile justice expressed concern over the combination of factors present in Cassandra's life: a history of trauma, adolescent rebellion, a volatile romantic relationship, and unaddressed mental health issues. The case illustrated the potential for these elements to create a perfect storm, where untreated emotional pain can escalate into violent behavior. Law enforcement, counselors, and educators saw Cassandra's story as a cautionary tale, stressing the need for vigilance in identifying warning signs of serious behavioral issues among at-risk youth. Cassandra and Johnny's attachment took on a dangerously codependent quality, which, combined with Johnny's susceptibility to Cassandra's influence, created a dynamic fueled by shared anger and resentment. The court considered the idea that this relationship, with its intensity and lack of boundaries, likely fed Cassandra's perception that her grandparents and Johnny's family were obstacles to be eliminated. This us versus them mindset is not uncommon in toxic relationships, where isolation from family and friends can heighten a couple's attachment to each other and lead to impulsive or extreme behavior. For the public, the case highlighted how unresolved trauma can warp a person's moral compass, ultimately leading to decisions that defy logic and empathy. In Cassandra's interrogation, her lack of remorse, combined with her ability to recount the horrific events so casually, revealed a psychological disconnection that left detectives and observers alike questioning her humanity. Her cold demeanor and chilling recollection of each act of violence painted a portrait of a young woman deeply detached from the gravity of her actions. The impact on the Bjorge family and the broader community was profound. Friends, neighbors, and extended family members of Wendy and Randall struggled to reconcile their memories of Cassandra as a child with the ruthless killer she had become. Many close to the family spoke out, expressing their shock and sorrow over the betrayal. Wendy and Randall had given everything to protect their granddaughter, hoping to provide her a future free from the tumult of her early years. Yet, in a cruel twist, the very people who rescued Cassandra from a dangerous home environment became the victims of her unbridled rage. The media portrayal of Cassandra and Johnny as a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde stirred up mixed emotions among viewers. While some were captivated by the sensationalism of their crimes, others viewed the portrayal as an inappropriate romanticization of a case that was, at its core, a tragic family betrayal. The story's real significance lay not in its drama, but in the heartbreaking reality of two grandparents who gave their lives trying to protect a troubled young woman from harm. In the aftermath, discussions emerged about the importance of early intervention for youth displaying warning signs of serious behavioral issues. Educational and mental health professionals advocated for improved systems for identifying and supporting young people dealing with trauma, resentment, or aggression before these issues escalate. The Bjorge case highlighted the need for accessible mental health resources, particularly for families grappling with complex dynamics and histories of abuse. In the courtroom, Cassandra's and Johnny's families were left grappling with the enduring pain of the tragedy. Cassandra's mother, shocked to learn that her daughter had planned to include her on a list of potential victims, reflected on her role in her daughter's troubled past. Though she had never anticipated that Cassandra's behavioral issues would escalate to such violence, she recognized that her daughter had faced emotional and psychological struggles for years. This painful acknowledgement underscored the profound responsibility that family members carry in supporting and guiding troubled youth. The sentencing provided some measure of closure for the Bjorge family, but the emotional wounds left by the case remained raw. While Cassandra and Johnny would each serve long prison sentences, Wendy and Randall's loss was a reminder of the devastating consequences when loved ones are unable to reach or help those struggling with severe emotional and psychological turmoil. In reflecting on the case, law enforcement officials emphasized the importance of community awareness and the role that neighbors, friends, and extended family members can play in supporting at-risk youth. Early intervention programs, counseling services, and community support systems are vital in providing young people like Cassandra with positive outlets for their struggles. For Cassandra and Johnny, such support might have offered a different path, sparing the lives of Wendy and Randall and preventing the tragedy from ever occurring. As the documentary concluded, it served as a somber reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked mental health issues, trauma, and toxic relationships. Viewers were encouraged to reflect on the role that family, friends, and society can play in supporting young people facing emotional difficulties. The story of Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder serves as both a cautionary tale and a call to action highlighting the importance of empathy, intervention, and support for those who may be struggling silently with inner turmoil that could one day spiral out of control. This narrative underscores the tragic complexity of familial bonds, the destructive potential of unresolved trauma, and the importance of community and professional resources in addressing the needs of at-risk youth. It challenges viewers to think critically about how we, as a society, can work to prevent such tragedies by offering understanding, guidance, and support to those in need. In analyzing the deeper psychological and social dynamics of the case, mental health professionals highlighted several critical factors that often contribute to such extreme behavior. Cassandra's early experiences with reported abuse and neglect likely created a complex emotional landscape marked by anger, distrust, and a sense of abandonment. These emotional scars, when left unaddressed, can distort a young person's view of themselves and the world around them, leading to misdirected anger and an inability to process pain in healthy ways. For Cassandra, the attachment to Johnny Ryder became more than just teenage infatuation. It offered an escape, a means to rebel against a world she felt had wronged her. In Johnny, she found someone who shared her feelings of alienation and resentment, and this common ground quickly evolved into a toxic codependency. Their bond intensified their sense of isolation from society, turning them against the very people who cared most for them. This pattern of isolating oneself and viewing others as obstacles or threats is a common warning sign in at-risk youth, and the case underscored how dangerous this mindset can become without intervention. Johnny's susceptibility to Cassandra's influence also revealed the power dynamics at play in their relationship. Friends and family described Johnny as impressionable, perhaps vulnerable to Cassandra's manipulation due to his own insecurities and challenges. While he expressed remorse in court, many questioned if he would have committed such acts independently, or if Cassandra's influence drove him to participate in these brutal crimes. His dependency on Cassandra's approval, combined with his struggles with substance abuse, created a state of mind where he could rationalize actions that, under normal circumstances, he might have resisted. As this tragic story circulated in the media, it shed light on the importance of mental health resources tailored specifically for young people. Adolescents often experience intense emotions and face challenges as they try to form their identities. Without healthy coping mechanisms, their emotions can spiral, making them more susceptible to negative influences. Schools, community centers, and mental health organizations began advocating for more accessible counseling services, mentorship programs, and support networks that could identify at-risk youth early on. The case also raised the question of accountability within families and communities. Cassandra's grandparents had provided her with a stable home and had fought to remove her from a harmful environment. Yet, even with this support, her feelings of anger persisted. Her case illustrated that sometimes, despite the best intentions, family members may not be equipped to fully address the complex needs of a traumatized young person. This realization prompted calls for family counseling programs that offer guidance to both the young person and their caregivers, allowing them to work together through underlying issues before they escalate. Furthermore, the Bjorge family's heartbreaking loss emphasized the irreplaceable role of compassionate relationships in a person's life. Wendy and Randall's devotion to Cassandra was clear to everyone who knew them, and their dedication stood in stark contrast to the violence that ultimately claimed their lives. While their deaths served as a painful reminder of the limits of love in the face of severe psychological issues, it also highlighted the profound impact that family support can have. Many families facing similar challenges were inspired to seek help, realizing that seeking external support does not mean failing as a caregiver, but rather taking a proactive step to ensure the well-being of everyone involved. In terms of societal response, the case stirred discussions about the influence of social isolation and sensationalism in media on young people. While the Bonnie and Clyde narrative added to the notoriety of the case, it also romanticized the couple's violent behavior, raising ethical questions about media portrayal. Critics argued that such comparisons could glamorize violence and inadvertently provide troubled individuals with dangerous role models. The need for responsible reporting became clear, as did the importance of contextualizing such cases within the framework of mental health and social support. As the court proceedings closed and Cassandra and Johnny began serving their sentences, professionals across various fields looked at ways to prevent future tragedies. Key recommendations emerged, such as early intervention programs that train teachers and community members to recognize signs of severe emotional distress. Training programs for parents and caregivers were also suggested, helping them identify changes in behavior that might indicate a young person is struggling. Educators, psychologists, and juvenile justice professionals alike stressed that prevention starts not only in the home, but also within the broader community. By creating an environment where young people feel heard, supported, and valued, society can help reduce the likelihood of similar tragedies. The documentary about Cassandra and Johnny's case thus concluded on a solemn note, encouraging viewers to think about their role in supporting young people around them. The story, though tragic, served as a call to action, reminding families, friends, and communities of the importance of open dialogue, mental health support, and early intervention. By fostering a culture of empathy and awareness, society can work towards preventing the pain and destruction that stems from unresolved trauma and unchecked emotional distress. In the final moments of the documentary, the narrator urged viewers to reflect on how this story could have been different if Cassandra had found a healthy outlet for her pain, or if Johnny had sought support for his struggles. It challenged viewers to consider how they might reach out to someone in need, even if that person doesn't seem receptive at first. The tale of Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder is ultimately a powerful reminder of the devastating potential of neglected mental health, urging us all to work towards a world where everyone, especially our youth, can find the help they need before it's too late.